Hey, folks, welcome to Live from Coco's Cabinet here, live in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. The Cabinet. You were here with me, Coco. It's good to see everybody. Took a week off last week and feel rested, restored, rehabilitated. I hope that you were all able to, function in your lives without this dose of Saturday hangs with your good buddy Coco. But everything's going to be fine because we're back, and I'm happy to be here with you here on Saturday, live from Coco's Cabinet. So it's been pretty exciting couple of weeks, and that's actually kind of what I'm going to focus tonight's episode on. There have been some pretty cool developments in my world that also there's kind of crossover with the world of the types of things that we cover here on Live from Coco's Cabinet, the world of cult cinema and things like that. So that's going to be kind of our focus this evening. And if you're wondering what the heck I'm talking about, why are you being so cryptic? Let's just get right to it. And let's kick things off with what we like to do with at the top of the show, and that is taking a look around the web and seeing what's going on out there on our segment Around the Web.
Breaking news from around the web.
That's right. That's breaking news from around the web. This week, I'm focusing on the extremely exciting news that was announced over the last couple of weeks that I have been off the air, as it were. And that is that the latest entry in one of my personal favorite horror franchises, Subspecies, is finally going to be having its world premiere. And that world premiere is going to be taking place March 25th at Horror Hound Weekend in Cincinnati, Ohio. And that film right here for my YouTube audience, hang on, my finger's going the opposite way. There we go. Subspecies 5, Blood Rise. Once again, written and directed by Ted Nicolau. Highly anticipated. This one's been kind of in the pipe for about 20 years. And was one of those that, with Full Moon, if you are a fan of this particular studio, Full Moon Features, you know that a lot of times these films get announced and then that's all they ever get. They get announced. You maybe get a cool poster because a lot of times these movies are sold based on the poster alone before there's even a script. But a lot of times it doesn't go beyond that. So there was, this certainly felt like a possibility that this was going to be the case with Subspecies 5. And so a couple of years ago, Charles Band started this sort of thing he called the Deadly 10, and it was 10 Full Moon movies that he was going to produce, and a lot of them were sort of sequels to older franchises. One of the other big ones was Head of the Family 2, which is another one that's been sort of, right there on the periphery for many, many years. But Subspecies 5, I was really excited about this, of course, at first, because I'm a huge fan of the franchise. I love, as much as I love Puppet Master, I do think that Subspecies is my favorite Full Moon franchise. It's kind of what truly made me fall in love with Full Moon last year. If you recall, if you've been following me and the page, then you know that the page was created last July, Coco's Cabinet of Curiosities. My Instagram page is what I'm referring to here. And the sort of what the page started as was me sharing my collection of specifically Empire Productions, and then segueing into Full Moon once my Empire Productions collection ended, which was it's far smaller than my Full Moon collection, which I do hope to remedy. But anyway, at the time was even smaller, so we kind of went right into Full Moon, and it's just this really cool. I really have this fond rose-colored glasses memory of this experience of going through and watching all of these movies. I was reviewing each one as I posted about them, and just kind of falling in love with this wacky studio, reading Charles Band's books, the two excellent books on both Empire and Full Moon, Empire of the Bees. and then it came from the video aisle, which covers Full Moon, the only two full-length books that exist on the studios. So I remember just really enjoying it, and Subspecies was a big part of that at the time, and I think it was just this exciting feeling of discovery every time I would watch these and just think what a wonderful movie this is, and there's so much to discover, and Subspecies especially has a lot to discover, so I'll talk more about that here in a moment, but we're going to focus here on our breaking news from around the web, which has to do with Subspecies 5 Blood Rise. So when I heard this news, as I often do, I will immediately kind of go to my phone or my computer, and I'll go to Google Maps, and I will see how far from me is this place where this really cool thing is happening. And that's not a knock on Nashville. Cool things happen in Nashville all the time, I guess. But I feel like I'm constantly doing this thing where I kind of search for how far away these things are. So anyway, I Google it. It's 5 hours, and that seems manageable to me. In this hypothetical situation that I'm going to this convention and seeing this movie. So it kind of, in my mind, it ends there. This is about a week ago when I'm thinking about this. And I look into how much tickets cost to Horror Hound, and I even made it as far as looking at hotel rooms, because I discovered that this was occurring during my high school's spring break, where I am an English teacher. If you're a new member of the audience tonight, and you didn't know that about me. So anyway, so it kind of leaves my mind. But then this past week, so this part we're gonna veer off from breaking news around the web to go into what is likely going to become a kind of a long Corey story. So if you'll strap in, this may be one of the first ones on the show, other than the Fever Dream recap, where I think those were just kind of happening inadvertently. Pardon me. For my Blast Radio audience, I just took a sip of coffee. For my YouTube audience, you got to see that thrilling moment live, in video, in color, believe it or not. So I was, last year, around the same time, when I'm reading these books, one of the books that I read, in addition to the two books covering the studios as a whole, and the book about Charles Band, the madman behind this whole business. I also read this book right here for my YouTube audience. I'm going to put this up on the screen. This book is called Puppet Master Complete, a Franchise History, and it was written by Nat Bremer. All right, and this is exactly what it sounds like. It is a book covering the entirety of the Puppet Master series, which is a large series. It covers all of the films. It covers the comic books. It covers the action figures. And then, of course, just the phenomenon of the cult, following that surrounded it, and the history and all of that. And while I was reading it last year, I was thinking to myself that this is exactly the kind of book that I want to write. If I haven't really talked about this much on the show, but this show sort of represents a culmination of half-baked ideas of me starting and stopping projects, starting and stopping podcasts, and this show for me has been really exciting because I've kind of started consistently, barring missing last week, creating content and writing things about horror movies and cult movies and all this stuff. And it's been really great because I'm actually creating things, consistently. But I've always wanted to write a book. That's just sort of been a personal goal of mine. And I would never, I've had lots of different ideas on how to approach that particular goal. But when I read this book last year, it really felt like this was, if I find the right franchise, this is kind of the approach that I want to take. Just a big overview of here's this thing and here's why it's awesome. Here's why people love it. Here's why I love it. Here's why you should love it. Here's why it's important. So I ended up reaching out to the author, Nat, last year. I keep saying last year like it was a full year ago. This was post July of 2022, so still haven't quite gotten a year since then, but it was last year, not being part of 2023. And I'm sure you're thankful for that clarification. So I reached out to Nat via Instagram just to, first of all, just thank him for the awesome book that I really loved. And one really great thing about both Instagram and Twitter that I have discovered over the last year of using it more is the ability to occasionally have the capability to interact with the people that create the things that you love, and that could be as simple as, you tag Guillermo del Toro in a tweet and he likes it. That happened to me, and it was really amazing. And it's such a little tiny thing, but it feels really cool and really big, right? So Nat Brimmer has an Instagram. I sent him a message on Instagram. Didn't know if he'd respond. He did. He thanked me for the praise, but I had asked him some advice. How did this happen? How did you do this? How did you go from, I think it'd be cool to write a book about Puppet Master to people buying your book about Puppet Master? And he was really helpful and candid and kind of told me that it was a fast process for him, that he had the idea. He reached out to a bunch of publishers. One of them, McFarland Publishing, liked what he had, and before he knew it, he was writing a book for a publisher. So, armed with that knowledge, I was like, okay, well, that's cool. And I learned, about things like query letters and what should be included in a book proposal, but still didn't really know, what it was going to be, what was going to be the book. So one day last week, sometimes at work, I'll have these little, I'll have a little downtime, and I will reach out into the world and try to, do something that is maybe related to the show or related to some abstract goal that maybe seems impossible, For example, last week I decided, after some reflection, that Subspecies was a franchise that I really had a strong connection to and felt like that could be the more I was thinking about it, I was going to take the same approach that Nat Brimmer took on his book, Puppet Master Complete, and propose a Subspecies Complete, a franchise history. So I wrote up a query letter where I, kind of laid out my vision for the book, what would be included, including, extensive interviews with the creatives involved. I include that in my query letter because, of course, this is just a wild shot in the dark, and, I won't be held responsible or accountable for the things that I'm promising in this letter, right? So I sent it last week, and within a couple of days, ladies and gentlemen, I received an email back that said they were very interested in my idea and wanted to see a proper proposal with a sample chapter. And suddenly, things got very real, and I was extremely, excited doesn't really capture it. I was really over the moon, but also kind of, freaked out because all of a sudden I got to write this proposal, right? So that was really cool on its own. But then after that, days later, maybe a day later, the timeline of this is a little fuzzy for me. I need to make good on my promises in my query letter, so I decide, I'm gonna start at the top. The father of the franchise, Ted Nicolau, writer director of all now 5 Subspecies films and the spinoff Vampire Journals. One of the only, I believe it is the only franchise within Full Moon where there has been one consistent artistic voice throughout. And speaking of those little social media moments I mentioned before, over the course of last year when I started posting about Full Moon and these things, in a post about Subspecies, I tagged Ted Nicolau on Instagram, and he liked it, and he followed the page, and we ended up having a little back and forth via Instagram messages. And then one day, while I was at school, my phone started ringing, and I looked down, and it's an Instagram phone call, and it's from Ted Nicolau. And I'm in the middle of class, in the middle of my job, my real job, and I will just walk out of the hall of the room because this is Ted Nicolau on the phone. My students can wait. I walk out into the hallway. The phone call has ended. And I'm just horrified because, of course, this was the moment, this was last year, him calling me to tell me he wanted me to be his personal assistant or something, right? So a few minutes later, he messaged and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, it was like an Instagram butt dial." But I will always have that. I took a screenshot of my phone, where it said Ted Nicolau missed call, because that was a really special moment, right? So anyway, we had the barest minimum of contact in the past, but I went ahead and I reached out to him and I told him what was going on and that I had this opportunity to write this proposal and potentially this book, the definitive history of the Subspecies franchise. And he emailed me back within minutes and said that he was excited about it. He was on board, and perhaps most excitingly, he sent me his daily journal from the production of the original Subspecies, which is just sort of, I feel like I'm Indiana Jones and I've discovered some secret tome. It is, I've started reading it already, and it is wild and insane, and the movie is a miracle that it exists. So all that to say, folks, I'm working on a book, and it's really exciting. I don't know, right now it's still, of course, very early stages, early days. It is still very much in the proposal stages, but I will be working on those sample chapters and sending that back to McFarland. I'm going to be talking to Mr. Nicolau as often as I can to get, have some conversations there and some resources, do some interviews. And he said he would be willing to put me in touch with his colleagues that worked on the film, and it's all very exciting. And, as silly as it sounds, when I try to go to sleep at night, I sit and I have these wild fantasies about this podcast suddenly leading to, some wild, super profitable, but also emotionally and soul fulfilling, venture. So one of those is, that, I just write this book that ends up being a thing. So anyway, it just feels like it's a wild, outlandish scenario, but it's actually happening to me, and it's coming true, and the dreams are coming true, and it's really cool. And I'm just going to enjoy it and not try to put too much, like this is going to change my whole life into this, as I often do. I think that's a normal thing for people to do. But really, more than anything, it's really, really, really cool. And I'm very excited, and I'm going to chronicle the progress here on the show. Anytime I get to do something cool, obviously I'll share it with you guys. And as I make progress and if things move forward, I will certainly keep us up to date here. And just, it's pretty wild. And I'm beyond thrilled. So to add on to that, to come back to our news from around the world, the web, because I am now, potentially the author of the definitive work on Subspecies, I've got to go to the world premiere of the new movie, right? And I want to give another huge shout out to my wife, who is so supportive and who is along for the ride on this. She's like, well, yeah, we got to go. We got to get you there. So we're going to Cincinnati, Ohio, that's the first weekend of our spring break. I'm going to meet Ted Nicolau. He said he looked forward to meeting me in the email, which was cool. He told me to call him Ted, which was also pretty special. And we're going to see the film, and we're going to talk to these folks. And it's all just really exciting, really cool. So just wanted to share that with everybody. And just, keep going out there. If you've got a goal, just keep doing it. I'm going to keep chipping away at this, and maybe one day I'll have a book, and I'll be the guy that wrote the Subspecies book. So I hope that's where that this leads, So that's your news from around the web, and it's cool and it's exciting. So that's it, and we're gonna move on to our next segment. So get ready.
Now it's time for Tales from the Shelf.
That's right, everybody. It is Tales from the Shelf. This is the part of the show where I highlight something that I have acquired recently, physical media or otherwise. So this week I am going to be highlighting a couple of things that I think are it's a unique thing that happens with someone who collects physical media, especially if you are a fan of these really weird, low budget movies. We weirdos, us collectors, when we really like a movie or we really like a franchise, we feel compelled to own every version of it. So that means, if you're a fan of Rocky, the Rocky movies, you probably have them on VHS and DVD and Laserdisc maybe, and then of course you just bought the recent 4K box set. It's a weird thing that happens when you feel this need to discover or to possess them, in every format. And, a lot of these things, a lot of these movies, you don't necessarily expect there to be, when these things started coming out on Blu-ray or even DVD, when they had these HD remasters, you kind of don't expect there to be much. Well, I'm used to watching this in the worst possible quality on a VHS tape, and it was probably filmed with crappy cameras. What more is there to discover? And I remember thinking that was one of the coolest parts of getting into collecting Blu-rays, DVDs and Blu-rays back in the day when I was working at Digital Planet in Murfreesboro. A little shout out to the old Murfreesboro heads that know that store. Was sort of seeing, like a film like Street Trash could look absolutely gorgeous in these remastered from the camera, the film negative, and it was kind of wild and to discover that, some of these had really lovely cinematography, and I think it was cool too to really get to appreciate the practical effects and the things like that you couldn't see all the wonderful details of on those older formats. But of course, those older formats have all of the charm, and I will never not collect those either. But I am also someone who appreciates both the low quality and the high quality in terms of experiencing a film. So I'm someone who collects every medium that's been released so far. So all that to say, there have been a couple of really interesting 4K releases over the last couple of weeks. One that was particularly in the I truly can hardly believe this exists at all is this guy right here. For my YouTube audience, you can see that on the screen. Puppet Master 3, Toulon's Revenge on 4K Ultra HD, a sentence that many probably never thought would ever be uttered. And it's Full Moon has put out their first 4K release was Trancers, which is actually the only franchise from Empire that Charles Band was able to hold on to. And it was the first 4K release, and I think that it's been interesting seeing what old Charlie's choosing. I think Trancers is one that has a lot of respect in the filmmaking community as maybe kind of a higher end product than some of the others that are in his collection of films. So I think that perhaps that was the motivator for putting Trancers out first. Now Trancers is top 3 for me. I would say my favorite, as I mentioned before, is probably Subspecies, Puppet Master, and Trancers. So I love Trancers. So I got that, of course. It looks great. It looks beautiful. And then they announced, when I say announced, they announced it was available in the shop. Like it wasn't like this is coming out in a couple of weeks. It was just out for Puppet Master 3, and it was like, oh, okay, how exciting. And of course, Puppet Master 3, if you're familiar with the franchise, is widely accepted as the best of the Puppet Masters. Not just of the Puppet Masters, but it's actually a pretty great film. in its own right. So, I think that Charlie's trying to put out the ones that maybe are a little more respectable on 4K first, perhaps before we get to, Sorority Babes in the Slime Bowl-orama. So anyway, though, this it looks outstanding. It looks even better than Trancers did. I think it has some really beautiful cinematography. Really looked amazing. But more than anything, this was sort of a, I can't believe that I have this, but it really does look great. Again, this has been sort of the discovery of 4K. Every time I think there's not more to discover, visually, than the next format proves me wrong. So, that's a great release. And then the other one that I wanted to highlight is actually from this week, and that is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Came out on 4K here in America. And if you are on my YouTube audience, I just want you to get a look at that cover. It has one of the best, and I think I'll probably put this up on my social media as well. This slip cover is just outstanding. It is the close-up shot of the eye with a great, reflection of Leatherface in there. But then, of course, take the slip cover off, and you have the original poster art underneath with that great tagline, "Who will survive and what will be left of them?" So this, interestingly, this was released overseas last year, and a lot of people... sorry for that loud noise there. Big fans of the film and people that collect not social media, physical media. We are also crazy enough to import discs from overseas and stuff. I've done that before, and a lot of collectors did that last year for the release. And it's the same disc, at least the same file for the film. Just the packaging is different, but it's another one that you may not expect, especially with a film like that shot on 16 millimeter, I believe. It really, it still maintains the gritty, grimy look that we know and love, but the increase in clarity and definition is just, honestly, it's kind of startling in some places. It really adds to the feeling that you're there and that you're watching something you shouldn't be watching. I remember the first time I saw that film, it really felt like I had discovered some cursed documentary that I wasn't supposed to see. As much of a narrative film as it is, certainly it's not in the the found footage vein at all, but it's a visceral film. It feels real, and it feels even more real now on this excellent 4K release by Dark Sky Films. It has like every bonus feature that's ever been produced for Texas Chainsaw over the last few years. This is a film that's been released on physical media countless times. But this seems to be, this happens every time you get a new release in physical media, the definitive release. So this will be the definitive release until we get another definitive release of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Here, again, I'm just going to show that for my YouTube audience one more time. That cover is just excellent. I just love it. So those are your Tales from the Shelf. I hope you enjoyed them. It was a two for this week for our segment.
Tales from the Shelf.
All right, we're back. We're back very abruptly. That was kind of the shocking end of Tales from the Shelf. So I'm sorry, I apologize for that abrupt ending there. But we're back. That was Tales from the Shelf. So as I mentioned, we've been kind of focusing this episode on subspecies. We've got it playing in the background there on my CRT if you're watching on YouTube. And I think another really wonderful thing, last time we had our show, I highlighted the music of Richard Band, which gave the Puppet Master films so much of their character. And Subspecies is another film that features very iconic and music that's integral to its identity, I think. So I wanted for tonight's Found Sounds to feature the not the main title, but one of the main something that you hear pretty often, and this was the track that plays over the introduction to the film. It is called "The Lord of the Vampires," and the soundtrack was put together by Richard Kaczynski, but he was working with the Amman Folk Orchestra. So part of what makes the Subspecies films so unique is that they were produced in Romania. In fact, the first American production in Romania, co-production with the government. So part of Ted Nicolau really used that to further the film's unique identity, and part of that, of course, comes in the music. So tonight's Found Sounds is going to feature that wonderful track, "Lord of the Vampires," conducted by Richard Kaczynski. This is the Amman Folk Orchestra with the Lord of the Vampires on tonight's Found Sounds. Found Sounds. That was Lord of the Vampires by the Amon Folk Orchestra, conducted by Richard Kaczynski for the film Subspecies. Kind of tonight's highlighted film. We talked a bit about the fact that I might be writing the book on subspecies, and if you didn't catch that part of the show, you should listen to the beginning because that's where we talked about it, and it was really exciting and fun. And I really hate that you missed it. So that was Found Sounds tonight, guys. Lord of the Vampires again. I think you'll agree. Another reason that why that film is so unique and has such a singular visual and oral footprint. Yeah. So this is the end of the episode of this show, live from Coco's Cabinet. I hope that you'll tune in again next Saturday here on my YouTube channel and on Blast Radio. You can find me on Twitter at Coco's Cabinet, on Instagram at Coco's Cabinet of Curiosities, YouTube at Coco's Cabinet, where you can watch every Saturday live like you're doing right now. And if you don't catch it live, you can still watch the episodes on my YouTube channel. They're all there for you to enjoy. And it's been just a delight hanging out with you this evening and getting to share this exciting news with you, with people that I know will appreciate this exciting news, and also who will appreciate my amazing Wizard Video t-shirt that I'm wearing tonight, and also has this awesome full moon graphic on the sleeve there. So that's just for my YouTube audience. Blast Radio, if you feel like, man, I really wish I could see all these things he's talking about, watch me on YouTube as well while you're listening, or, do one or the other. And hey, if you missed the show altogether, you can always find the episodes on Sunday or sometimes Monday as a podcast on all of the podcast providers that are available in the world. You can find it at every single one of them. So wherever you like to get your media, I'm there, man. I'm on the radio. I'm on YouTube. I'm on podcasts. I'm with you wherever you need me. Here live from Coco's Cabinet. Thanks for tuning in, folks. I will see all of you next week.